And we're good to go.
Welcome back to the 101, the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Show. I've got a special guest with me today, Greg Dupont from Dupont and Blumensteel. Greg, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
I don't want to thank Greg because the way that Blumensteel looks, it does not look the way it's said. So I appreciate that little on-air or off-air help. The reason I have Greg in is because he and his partner have a very unique practice, and I thought for all those entrepreneurs that need wealth and health management, can we say that?
Yes.
I thought it was very important to have somebody on because we haven't had somebody in that category before. But before we get into that, can you give him a little background on who you are and why you do what you do?
Sure, thank you. I am a Columbus product, Upper Arlington, born and bred. I've been practicing law since 1992. I started out with my focus being estate planning, small business counseling, that type of stuff. Along the way, helped some companies grow and got into a lot of litigation. And what happened with my practice was I found that it was heading a direction I didn't want to go. And I sat back and said, what is it that I really liked? And what I really liked about the practice of law was counseling small businesses, helping people make decisions and solving problems. And I saw one of the biggest problems people had as an entrepreneur is that they did not have the time necessary to form some of the strategic alliances that they needed throughout the course of their professional career. And so I decided I wanted to try to form a structure that allowed us to be kind of a single point focus for the entrepreneur to get all those needs met.
Can I back up? Because you said a couple of important things, but what we normally talk about on this show is why, in the beginning, why did you take the route you're taking? And you said your business was going in a route that you didn't want it to go. What gave you that kind of epiphany where you thought, I don't want to do this way anymore?
Like I said, I had a couple of clients of mine that were taking me in the direction of litigation. I'd walk into the office, and at that point in time, I had opened a firm downtown with three other lawyers, and I had 3 associates working for me and all kinds of staff. And I got a regular feeling of that pit in the stomach when I'd walk in the door, And part of that was because one of my clients was a collection agency. Those
are fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Good guys, good times when they show up.
It was a healthy practice, yeah. So when I found myself not liking the way that my name was being used, and I figured I had to sit back and decide what I wanted to do when I grew up. I liked practicing law, I liked counseling people, but I didn't like the litigation part. It just wasn't a fit for my particular wiring.
Do you think, and I'm speaking from my own experience, the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing today is because my name is on it. Do you think that was a big push for you? Because we always talk about whatever you're doing now and in the future, that's your legacy you're leaving behind. And you didn't like that because it was attached to your name, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you take that other route, in the beginning, are you kind of hesitant, or what gets you to go that way? Because I'm sure we have a couple of lawyer clients, and they all seem very confident. They're great guys, but it's like they know exactly what they're going to do, even when they don't know what they're going to do. When you're going to take that leap and branch out, was it nerve-wracking to you, or did you know exactly where you were going?
I knew where the end was. I'm still trying to find all of the paths that are going to get me to that end. But I am a student of Tony Robbins and all of the people that I'm sure many of your listeners listen to as well. As a matter of fact, I was just in a conference last weekend with Dan Kennedy, who is kind of a guru of this type of thinking. So I always knew where I wanted to be. The path is not always straight, but when you begin with the end in mind, then you can find your way to that end.
Right. I love that you said that, because I should tell people, we only talked in the lobby for about 5 minutes beforehand. So I didn't know you were going to say that. This is not like we planted this question. So then you start this business, and you are looking at a way to deal more one-on-one or build networks for people.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're doing that, it's not just what your end all goal is, right? I mean, your goal can't just be to make money. It is really to make money for other people.
It's to serve. The bottom line is, what I observed is, when you start your law practice as an estate planning lawyer, as I did primarily, and hang out that shingle, advertise if that's what you do, you get lots of people in the financial services industry that want to buy you a cup of coffee and ultimately get you to refer clients to them. And although I met some fine people in that industry, I didn't find enough of them that I felt comfortable with referring my clients to. And I also, and through those various conversations, saw the incredible benefit that can be realized when somebody has a trusting relationship with the financial advisor or an estate planning / business attorney. But people don't have the time to really build those relationships. You know, a lot of my studying early on as I started looking at that level of the business, the financial part, was how all of the practice development people say you need to get a attorney involved, an accountant involved, and the financial advisor involved. Well, I sat back and looked at that from the perspective of the entrepreneur consumer and said, wait a second, you want me to pay all those people to sit down and give me advice at the same time? And I said, wait a second, my undergraduate degree is in accounting. I have finance background, finance in my blood, as it were. And if I could find a way to bring that portfolio of services to the entrepreneur in a way that they get the advice that they need to make the decision that they need without the fear of the fee that I've seen has driven people to make some very, very poor decisions in their personal and their business lives.
When you started this, or let's just say you're a couple years in, when you're meeting people and they are entrepreneurs, what do you notice first? Is it the lack of time to research this, or is it more fear? Because here's what I see a lot when we deal with small businesses and entrepreneurs. Like, that's our passion. We want to deal with the smallest of the small and build them up. But there's so much hesitancy in even just putting together media plans or where you come on a radio show. When it comes to their actual financial picture, are they more tepid as far as getting into that with you?
In general, you know, you look at the wiring of the entrepreneur, and at least the ones that I've known throughout the years, and I've known many, what's their ultimate goal, right? Their ultimate goal for many of them is to build and sell, and that's where their focus is. And too often, they don't take the time to get some guidance to maybe catch some wins along the way. You know, I saw how that can work tremendously early on in my law practice when I was on the other side of the issue and I represented a creditor that was a creditor of a business, and it was down in southeastern Ohio or whatever, and they had gone out of business. And the owner of that business along the way had perfectly, legally, and appropriately captured wins along the way and taken money out, put it in his retirement programs, etc. And so when the unfortunate end came for that business and they had to go belly up, at least that owner had something to show for his 20-odd years of building that business. And I've seen on the other side, you know, when I started practicing law, and to this day I still do some bankruptcy work, and it's disheartening when you see somebody that has been an entrepreneur and has been building up, and then through some fault, maybe a vendor bails on them, and next thing they know, they've lost everything, and they haven't caught anything along the way. So it's a real challenge to get the entrepreneur to kind of take a step back and allow themselves to maybe not put that $50,000 toward next year's advertising campaign, but rather capture that, put it in my own piggy bank in case something goes on down the road that I can't control.
Would you say that you give people the advice that they have to invest in themselves first? I've heard that a lot, where, you know, it took, when I was building my business, it took me probably a good 2.5, 3 years to really get to where we were in the black, because you have stumbling blocks growing. Then I remember people saying, you've got to make sure you pay yourself first. And then I thought, that is such good advice. I'm going to do that later. So then it took me another year or two, and then you have, you know, bad things happen, and you're trying to right the ship as you're going. You're not really putting money back. So it seems like the advice is always to pay yourself first, but most entrepreneurs do not do that.
Yeah, and I think practically, it's a balancing act, especially for the entrepreneur, because pay yourself first is a great idea if you're in the wage world. Okay.
Right. If it's consistent, you mean every single month you're getting $2,000, $4,000, you can budget that way.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're not in the wage world, and if you do believe in yourself, when I put my financial advisor hat on, if you came to me and said, "Hey, Greg, what can you tell me that you can get me 10% guaranteed return on my investment?" I can't give you any product that says that I'm going to do that.
Right.
It's
not a checking account.
It's not a checking account. It'd be against all kinds of legal restrictions if I were to tell you, "Yeah, I got that for you." But the entrepreneur's mindset is, I am able to. When you give me $100 in advertising, and I want a 2-for-1 return on my investment, right?
Right.
And so as you are building, it often makes more sense to invest in your business yourself as opposed to paying yourself.
Right.
But there becomes a point as the business starts to mature that your finances have to mature as well. Okay. And I struggle with this personally. Our law firm that we just started up in January, I'm overhead of my skis a little bit with it, right? But
you're saying that because of when you start. It's not that you're behind the 8 ball because you didn't plan well. It's because it's new. So you and your partner are entrepreneurs, but you have the background. You have probably your 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
You've read that book, right?
Right. Yeah.
And sorry, I got over my skis on that one. The 10,000 hour principle is, there's a book called Outliers that if you have 10,000 hours of anything, that makes you an expert. So if you look back on your career and you say, I've worked, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, as you start to add this up, you go, oh, I really feel good about myself. I actually did this while I was reading this book. In 2007 or 2008, I had calculated that I had worked over 41,000 hours doing what I was doing. The mistake was I was going on an interview to a company where no one in the room had done what I had done for a minute, so I got a little overconfident about what I was talking about, and I realized I went over their head. But I know we went down the wrong road. I just wanted to clarify, it's because you just started this that you're over your skis.
Yeah. And so, and the point of that was that, so at this point in time, where is the best place for me to be investing my money? And that is in my own development of this business, right, as we are throwing money at getting our name out, and et cetera, and getting the infrastructure set of the new law firm. But there will be a point that you now are starting to reap the reward of that, and instead of continuing to further commit yourself, as we see many entrepreneurs do, upsizing the house or whatever, if you can just take a pause there and take a victory here and there and put it away, then in the long run, you're going to be much better off.
I think that's such great advice because, again, I'm not telling you that I did this. I mean, I kept putting money into the business, whether it was hiring another person or whether it was buying more equipment or looking at a tax write-off instead of putting it into my 401k or whatever it is, because when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have your own retirement accounts. And I think that's another thing that people forget is we all think we have unlimited time, but before you know it, 35 becomes 45 really quick. And you look back on what did I put away, and I didn't. So now you've extended that time you have to work even farther. And then some people get stuck where they can't sell their business. Their business is really them. So they can't sell, like an advertising agency. You can't sell it because those clients are buying Greg. They're not buying everybody inside of it. So if you can't sell it, you better have a good retirement because you're going to have to close the doors there.
Right.
I want to talk more about retirement after the break, but I want you to answer this one thing. If you had to look at managing somebody's wealth that they have now, can you put a plan together with some detail to say, okay, you're starting this business today, entrepreneur A. In 3 years, where do you want to be? Is there a way to kind of put a path together for somebody? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but...
No, there are very precise tools that can be used to model those things out, and that's one of the
When we come back, I would like to get more into like retirement and savings, but unfortunately, I've done so much on your background. I want to get more into what you... Somebody really wants to to get a hold of you?
Yeah, somebody wants to get a hold of you real bad. Maybe they'll ring back again. It's a 614 number. I just hit decline.
That's fine.
That'll send it to your voicemail, right?
Yeah. When we come back, I would like you to give like how you want to be contacted. If you want, like, go ahead and give the firm name, phone number if you want, and then I'll get right into the next question. You all right so far? You're doing great.
Do you recognize the number? 349 9044.
No.
You don't?
Don't cure
They
about
called
that.
again.
They called back to back.
Yeah.
I hope that you're watching if you're calling. That's all I ask.
This is a call-in show.
Apparently this is it.
This is not a call-in
Please
show.
Stop calling the show. It's not going to work. We're not going to do that.
Not a call-in show.
What if it is? That'll be the
Maybe
best.
somebody has a real burning question for me.
I wonder if somebody might actually think that one day. I'll just call his phone and interrupt the show. Okay.
We've got probably about 10, 11 more minutes.
Okay, cool. You let me know when you're ready. Welcome back to the 101. My guest today is Greg Dupont. Greg, can you tell people how to get in touch with you or your partner?
Yeah, we're out there in social media. You can find me. Just the best way to find me actually would just be to Google Greg Dupont. And just when you're doing that, I'm not the BMX rider that you'll find pictures.
I was
of.
so excited when I looked you up because I was like, this guy's going to be really radical, and it was not.
Not me.
It was not.
No, I'm the attorney in Central Ohio that is. Oh, and by the way, I'm not a member of the rich Dupont clan either.
You know what? That's the part that kind of creeped me out too. I'm like, if he wants to talk about that, we are not getting into that.
So you can get a hold of me. Just like I said, Google my name or follow me on Facebook. Our website for the law firm is D&B Law, kind of like Dun and Bradstreet, dnblaw.com. And then my wealth is dupontwealth.com.
So there's a lot of ways to get a hold of you. And also, you'll be able to see this we're on Facebook Live right now, but you can also go to the Morris Media Productions page on YouTube. And this will also be on Greg's website as well. So I think we've covered the cheap plugs there. We'll move on.
All right.
So I wanted to get into when we're looking at financial planning for entrepreneurs and small businesses. You said there is a tool to make a plan. When is the best time for these entrepreneurs to get to you? I mean, I know ideally we'd like them to say, I've got a prospectus. This is what my plan is for a year to 3 years. And I'm sure you never see that.
Never.
Okay, here's a quick question because you've done it yourself.
Right.
And I've done it myself. Do you think without a plan, if you have an idea and you're going to just haul ass to get there, don't you think that you can still get, like, you have to get the tools. I have to talk to somebody like you, but at least I'm not hedging and I'm going to get out there.
Yeah, as we talked about before, I'm a student of self-development and all those. And I think 99% of the self-development gurus, they tell you got to have your written goals and your plans and all that. And then you sit down at the entrepreneur level, and if you sit there and go, okay, I'm going to write out everything I'm going to do for the next 3 years as a goal. That's a great start, and God's upstairs just laughing, right? Because
right.
you tell them that you make a plan.
Right in pencil, not pen.
Exactly. But, what it does give you is a framework. I think people tend to get bogged down in details on something like that. But when we talk about a financial plan specifically for an entrepreneur, we want to make sure that we have revenue goals, right? And we want to make sure that we have ROI goals and those type of things as part of our business practice. But what I would challenge the entrepreneur to do is say, okay, what is going to be my lifestyle goal and what's the gap? And can I work on that and say, all right, with my lifestyle goal, part of that is I'm going to set aside X% per year of my gross revenue, my profit from my entrepreneurial venture, so that we can capture that and move it forward. But to say, I want to have $1 million in the bank in 5 years, sure, I can give you math that shows you how do we accumulate that. But until it comes from your gut,
right,
it's just worthless.
my thinking is this, because we've had other people that, not in your field, but we've had people like Mr. Biz, who I mentioned, who I'm holding his pen right here. He has said that what he does is he works on your business so you can work in your business. So he wants to be there. He wants to help negotiate with vendors and work with people in your company and HR and all that. But he can't turn around and also be the person that's also paying attention to your finances, right? You have to have somebody that's what you do every day. That is your bailiwick, right? So when you get to somebody like that, or they come to you, what's the first thing that you ask them?
Where do you want to go? What are your goals? Let's talk about what you want to achieve. And then we will coach through that to whether or not those are reasonable and realistic. Never tell an entrepreneur that he's not being unrealistic, right?
Right.
That's what makes us drive. But that would be the first question. What is it that we want to do that if at the end of the engagement you felt, yep, that we've accomplished something? Is it a plan that says I'm going to retire at 55? Well, okay. Here's the benchmarks. Here's how you need to put this together to get there. And again, plans are great blueprints, but it's the follow-up. And with my practice, part of what drives me, going back to what my initial epiphany, as it were, was, is I don't want to tell that entrepreneur, here's the plan. Good luck. No, my job is to say, all right, Mr. Entrepreneur, we're a team now. This is where you want to go, and this is how we're going to work together. And this is how we're going to, the metrics that we're going to use to get back to this to see if we're on course, and how we're going to titrate things to make sure that we are staying on course, or whatever course diversions we need to make, that we are fully advised as we make those changes.
Do you feel when you see people win that you win? Is that part of the reason you do it?
Yeah.
I mean, I just know from our point of view, like I said before, what Rachel and I always talk about is we want to find the broken toys and we want to play with them to the point where other people want to play with them. So when we see somebody win, it's a bigger bonus than the money. Do you feel the same way when you put a plan? Not so much you put a plan together, but they brought you their dream or their vision, and you've helped them get there. That has to feel amazing.
Some of the most personally satisfying moments have been when people with modest money, when we're talking in the context of entrepreneurs, normal folk, for lack of a better word, when they're able to walk out of my office with peace of mind that they're not headed toward cat food city retirement. And that's what charges me up.
And that's what gets you doing it day after day.
Day after day.
Because you can't sit back. I know Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and all that, they will say you can't worry about what you did yesterday, it's what you're doing today. It's got to feel good when you meet somebody the first time. Like there's an electricity the first time that you're like, I get it. I know what they're trying to do and I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Do you take we're almost running out of time, and I'm going to bring you back. I have to, because I can't get into all this in one show. But when you're dealing with somebody, do you see it? Do you see what they're trying to get to, or is it more just it's times tables and the numbers?
The numbers and the tools that we use are tertiary at best. It is the relationship. It is the...
Is it like a feel? Is it how you feel about it? Because you're not going to you'll take people, they come to you, but you're not going to take on everybody, right?
We're not a fit for everyone, absolutely.
Right, and that's a key for being an entrepreneur. Not everybody fits. And also, what you do with your life. Like, you don't want to be shackled to somebody that is going to drag you down and it's going to be negative, right? So you pick and choose.
I absolutely pick and choose.
See, that's the difference. And this is why I wanted to bring you back, because there are a lot of people out there that are managing people's wealth and their retirement funds. It's all about the fees. It's all about what they get. Kind of like an insurance agent. Just pay your dues. That's all I'm looking for.
That's why I set up my company, so I could be completely independent, free of any institutional or product bias. And I could be free to say, yeah, we have a good fit here, or no, here's somebody else that you might be better fit with.
I like that, because I could tell when you were telling the story that there's got to be some that you're willing to take on, that you have to be as engaged as they are to get them where they want to go.
We're not just providing product, we are providing guidance and becoming partners.
So can I pressure you, now that we're on Facebook Live and on the radio show, that you'll come back? Because
Would
I
love
want to pick your brain some more on this. We just happen to run out of time today.
Be back whenever you want me.
Perfect. Greg, thank you for being on today. You've been listening to the 101, and we will see you next week.
That's a wrap, folks.